Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV Tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series for the Master Millwright 200 at the Twin Ring Motegi. That's right, we are all the way in Japan here tonight for the Master Millwright 200. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here, as always, for our Friday night NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, great to be here this week in Japan. One of the racetracks that put on one of the best shows last season here back on the schedule.
Yeah, a flat Darlington, as we were saying just before we came on air. A little bit of asymmetrical corners on the extreme ends of the racetrack. 1 and 2 a little bit different than 3 and 4, which means your brake markers, your turning points a little different on the front stretch and the back stretch, but a lot of fun. I think a driver's track. If you've ever run a simulated version of the old redone Homestead, this almost kind of feels like that, but almost a little less banking than that, even though it really didn't have less banking, but it kind of feels like that. A real driver's track. These guys are getting real loose, especially off of turn 4. And I think it's going to be a handful for these guys tonight, which typically, Peter, means that they're going to put on a pretty good show.
Yeah, definitely. This racetrack is going to lend itself to some tire conservation as well, which I'm really excited to see how that goes in store here as well. Of course, all eyes here in the Master Millwright 200 are going to be on the championship picture, because here tonight we only have 2 races left until we get to the round of 10 in the playoffs. We do have point standings for you folks here tonight. There they are on your screen. Mitchell Adams, Andrew Hibbleman, Chris Darling, JT Poole, Stan Hausman, James Arello, Ben Isenga. Those 7 drivers are locked into the playoffs. We have 3 other drivers locked in on points right now, those being Ben Adams, Doug Neal, and Jamar Dumas. And then Matt Cherry, he's on the outside looking in. Jeff Price, 18 points out. Justin White, 25 points out. Travis White, 32 points out. And then kind of after them, it gets a little bit more fuzzy and less likely that they're going to be able to get in unless they can make their way to victory lane. I'm looking at Tristan Maher, Ben Mashburn, Kyle Lewis, Nathan Maurer, Colin O'Leary, Garrett Gleason. Those drivers going to need to get a win to work their way into the playoffs here in the National Sim Racing Association. So we will see which of those drivers, if any of them, can punch their ticket in to the playoffs here tonight on the channel. Just about 1 minute, 15 seconds left. And Drew, we've seen a lot of different winners this season. Of course, one winner not on that is Jason Gracias. He has not met the eligible number of races to be eligible to be in the points or into the playoffs based off of his 2 wins that he has so far this season. But a lot to play for here tonight at Twin Ring Motegi.
There certainly is, especially for those guys that you were talking about, Matt Cherry and Jamar Dumas, Jeff Price. I think Ben Adams and Doug Neal in 8th and 9th position. Ben Adams, 32 points to the good. He basically just needs to not have a disastrous 2 races, and he's pretty secure in his position. I like where Doug Neal is as well, 22 above the cutoff mark. And then Jamar Dumas right on that line, only 7 points ahead of Matt Cherry. I think Cherry's really displayed a lot of pace, especially at the types of tracks that we are seeing this week and next week at Charlotte. I especially look for Cherry to be really strong at Charlotte. So if I were Jamar Dumas, that I believe number 6 truck, Matt tends to move around numbers-wise. Not sure what he is running tonight. Just looking on the board, number 18 tonight for Matt Cherry. He just displayed so much pace at 1.5 mile intermediates last season that I think he's a guy to watch out for. Then Jeff Price in 12th, Justin White in 13th. I think anybody outside of that's going to have to win a race. But Peter, as we know, it would just take 2 winners that haven't won in the next 2 weeks, and everything changes.
Yeah, and that's one of them right there. That is Matt Cherry in the number 38 machine rolling out there onto the racetrack. Number 18 will be on the scoring pylon if you're looking out for Matt Cherry here tonight. Number 38 on the side of his Ford F-150. A little bit of a new look as well. RD Designs on that truck. And that green really makes it pop there, Drew.
Yeah, a really, really sharp-looking scheme. I'm a big chartreuse fan. So any car that has chartreuse, that neon yellow, the fancy word for neon yellow, or neon green. Not really green, but some people call it neon green. It's neon yellow or chartreuse. Always a fan of seeing that color out there, especially with these spec maps, that matte black, that gloss green, yellow. It's a really good looking machine out there. Matt Cherry's had quite a few of those. I was a big fan of his scheme previously when he ran that Jimmy Johnson kind of replica scheme. James Zarello, talking about green, is this number 9 machine. Who's stopping, did not get through 3 and 4 the way he wanted and wanted to stop and get a reboot there. Clever little trick that I have tried to do very unsuccessful, Peter. That can bite you if you stop just past the start-finish line and you actually take the white flag. Now you don't really get a lap, and you're in a world of hurt. But times are starting to roll in now. Ben Izenga at the top of the provisional poll right now with a 37.148. Mitchell Adams right behind him, but times are clicking in. JT Poole comes in third. Now we're looking at the 07 of Izenga on his second lap. Do you think these guys are going to be able to improve at all, Peter, on these second laps? I don't anticipate it. What do you think?
I don't think so at all. I mean, we saw Doug Milliner in the number 6 machine, who currently is 10th spot. Now, I think Milliner will be able to pick it up on lap number 2, because we saw him have a big slide on lap number 1. With the way these tires fall off, I just don't think that you're going to be able to pick it up on your second lap. Here is the number 82, the Army Esports Racing Machine of Adam Dama, back in the field here tonight. It's been a couple of weeks since we last saw Adam out there on the racetrack. I think he had some issues with the VR in his racing rig, so great to see him back in the fray here tonight. Stan Hausman in the number 39, sporting a new look here tonight. Of course, Beer Street Journal, the sponsor of the Beer Street Journal Last Call here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We don't call it Overtime. We don't call it the Green White Checker. We call it the Beer Street Journal Last Call, and he has them on the hood of that car. Now, James Zarello, the number 9 machine, he's currently 16th on the board here in the Craig Setup Shop pole shootout. Big shout out to Craig Setup Shop for sponsoring the pole award here in the National Sim Racing Association. And I do believe that Lorello, unless he can pick it up on lap number 2 here, he's going to have to be starting deep in the field. Let's see what he can do on lap number 2. It's better. Goes from 18th to 6th on the board. I think he really screwed up his first lap. Similar deal to the number 6 machine of Milliner. Unfortunately, Milliner not really able to pick it up on lap number 2. Jordan Shepler trying to pick it up on lap number 2. The number 13 machine, he was green in sector number 1, but he's still going to be 1.6 seconds off the pace here tonight, Drew. This track proves itself to be quite tricky.
Yeah, I think it's one of those really challenging tracks because it's just so wide. It can make finding that mark to get off the throttle, maybe trail brake a little bit. I don't anticipate too much braking going on here, but just your turn in, being consistent and nailing all that stuff can be a real big challenge for these guys. And I think that's why we're seeing some guys screw up their laps. And Peter, conditions change a little bit between qualifying and practice when you're running realistic weather like these guys are. And speaking of weather, 135-degree track temp, Peter. That is scorching hot.
Yeah, that track temperature is way up there. As Kyle Lewis pulls off the racetrack, I think we got Robert Dudley out there right now, but only 29 seconds left. We'll see if we can get you a little bit of an indication of that weather there on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see it is 89 degrees ambient temperature, but that track temperature at 135 degrees. It is going to be really slippery out there. I think that's one of the reasons why we have seen some of these drivers struggle here in the Craig Setup Shop pole shootout. Just 4 seconds left. I don't think Dudley is going to be able to finish his lap time, so he's going to have to start well back in the field. He did not get to the line before that checkered flag expired. So that is going to give the Craig Setup Shop pole award to the driver of, well, I don't know, all my stuff just reset, so we'll have to bring up the I'll have to bring up the qualifying results. Drew, did you happen to catch who picked up that award? I surely didn't.
Yeah, that would be Drew Himmelman in that number 8 machine. Snuck in a 37.142, just 0.006 seconds quicker than Ben Izenga. So an outstanding effort by that number 8 truck, and he will be our pole sitter tonight.
Well, we're just going to have to get him down here for a quick word because, of course, he is going to be going. He's going to pick up the full award here tonight, but also possibly might go for the Buttkicker Challenge here on 3Y TV. Andrew Himmelman, Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, not only are you picking up the Craig Setup Shop Pole Position Award here tonight, congratulations on that. Make sure you check them out at craigsetupshop.co.uk. But you also have an opportunity to go for the Buttkicker Challenge. There's a lot of money, on the line for that. I'll tell you what, you going to try and go for it tonight?
Well, I think with JT taking the pot at Darlington, I don't know that it kind of reset, so I don't know that it's worth getting sent to the back and going back there and possibly, I don't know, getting wrecked. But I think we're going to stay up front, try to get some stage points. We want to fight for this regular season championship. We want to really go back to back with Darlington, so we want to try and give ourselves the best chance for that. So I think we're going to stay up front.
Well, Andrew, I know there's a lot on the... Well, not a whole lot on the line to play for, at least for you being locked in to the playoffs. But tell us a little bit about this racetrack, because we know it's a little bit tricky. So tell us about, kind of how it all works out.
Yeah, so 1 and 2 is super long, so you got to really wait with the throttle. You got to be super careful. This thing really can get tight on you during a run, and it can start sliding. So you just got to be super easy with the throttle in 1 and 2, and you got to get to that corner clean and not killing your tires. So, and in 3 and 4, you head in. It's it's kind of long, but it's more of you got to get off the gas and let it roll. Even on a hot lap, you got to let it roll. You got to hit the brakes going in. I think this will provide some good racing. I think this field's pretty stacked, so hopefully we have some good racing, and let's get after it.
All right, well, Andrew, best of luck here tonight, picking up the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award here on 3Y TV. Good luck. Who knows? We might get to talk to you at the end of the night.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, well, we'll let him get back to his group here, but I moved myself up into the wrong channel, so now we'll let Andrew go back to his group. But Drew, I'll tell you what, it is going to be pretty interesting to see how these drivers tame this racetrack tonight.
It's certainly going to be a challenge, as you mentioned, tire wear. I think it's going to be a really big part of tonight with just these scorching hot track temps. I mean, that's about as high as I've ever seen in iRacing. I haven't seen much above 135. You can only go up to about 90 degrees in iRacing, which, they're located anywhere near the Gulf Coast. They need to have a little bit higher maximum ambient air temp than 90. But a really big challenge for these guys tonight to both manage that and just keeping these trucks pointed in the same direction when you don't have a lot of banking to lean on, like we will next week at Charlotte. So, and just a track that guys aren't super familiar with. Luckily, I think a lot of these guys have run this last season, but for these guys that are making their rookie debut season here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, this is something that they probably haven't done before and a track they haven't seen before.
It's definitely one that doesn't get raced all too often, does it, Drew? Across the iRacing system in general, because this racetrack, of course, isn't really raced by NASCAR, and it hasn't been raced in quite some time. In fact, last I heard, this oval was damaged in an earthquake, and they're needing to repair it before it's even raceable. So that's why this track it doesn't get run a whole lot in real life. It doesn't get run a whole lot in the sim. I think those two probably go hand in hand. Of course, IndyCar used to run on the oval back about 14 to 15 years ago or so. Put on some interesting races, that's for sure. And I would really love this racetrack come back and get its way back into the racing picture. And who knows, maybe NASCAR one day will head to the Twin Ring Motegi Oval. There's Jamar Dumas in the number 28 machine. He's one of those drivers we're going to be keeping our eyes on here tonight. But with that, it is going to be the end of the qualifying or an end of the warm-up session. You see all those drivers just now out there getting lined up on the grid. And it is time for us to bring up tonight's starting lineup, starting with Andrew Himmelman on the pole in the number 8 machine here for the Master Millwright 200, picking up that Craig setup pole award up there. Starting alongside him will be the 07 machine of Ben Izenga. Row number 2, Mitchell Adams and Ben Adams. So a couple of the Adamses. It's the Adams family on row number 2, except they're not related, believe it or not. JT Poole, James Arello on row number 3, Christopher Darling and Jeff Price, row number 4, Nick Kessler and Jamar Dumas rounding out your top 10 there, Drew.
And then starting in 11th is Justin White with Doug Neal to his outside. Those guys, of course, trying to get their way into the chase. Doug Neal currently sitting in that position. Colin Ullery and Stan Houseman in 13th and 14th. Matt Cherry, another chase playoff hopeful, in 15th position in that number 38 truck, not 18. Kyle Lewis is in the 18 though, even though he scored as being in the 19 truck. He'll roll off 16th. Adam Dama in that number 82 Army Esports machine will be rolling off in 17th position, with Ben Mashburn in 18th. Doug Milner in that number 6 will roll off 19th, and to his outside, that number 13 truck of Jordan Shepler rounding out our top 20.
Yeah, we did see one truck there not work his way out there onto the racetrack. I think that was Jordan Shepler in the number 13, so we'll keep our eyes on that. Robert Dudley, Steven Doziak on row number 11, Vincent Valvano, Nick Bradley on row number 12, and rounding out your field here tonight, the number 16 of Brian Bradley. Also hearing that Brian Bradley in his machine here also has not worked his way out there onto the racetrack. Not sure what is up with that, and folks, bad news. Seems like the software that I use for my live timing has decided to go kaput. So we won't have any live timing. It also controls my cameras. Of course, now you get to see a little bit of the task manager while I try and kill it. Gotta love this stuff. As we're going green here in just a moment, and I'm going to do everything I can to try and change the camera, but I can't do anything. Green flag is out here. Drew, why didn't you talk us through the first lap?
Yeah, that number 8 machine in my best MRN impression, he takes the inside of 1 and 2. Just about clear of Izinga right there. He will clear him off of turn 2. Izinga now having to battle Mitchell Adams, who is trying to take that second position away from that number 07 truck, with JT Poole on the outside right behind Izinga going into 3 and 4. But the 07 gets really loose, but he's able to rally that thing back under control. But another big wiggle from that 07, and that's going to be a ton of time in momentum lost for Izinga, as he went from second position all the way back to 5th, 6th position that last time by. So an exceptional save, but not an exceptional corner for that number 07 machine, as he's going to have to regroup after that, and that allows that number 8 truck about a 7/10 of a second lead right now, probably a little bit more so as they head down the backstretch. Mitchell Adams in that number 26 are now fighting for second position. Here comes JT Poole to the inside of that number 49.
Yeah, looks like we got pictures back as Andrew Hillman and the number 8 machine starts to pull away. But right back behind him, there's the battle for positions between JT Poole and Mitchell Adams. I do believe Mitchell Adams went to victory lane last season here. Actually, no, excuse me. That was James Orello, the number 9 machine, who went to victory lane last season here. Mitchell Adams was up in the mix, however, for a good portion of that race last year. Christopher Darling is running right back behind him. JT's already picked up 3 positions from where he started at the top of the show. Big gainer so far. Of course, Izenga with that big slide now back in the 5th position. James Orello there in 6th, right where he started at the top of the show. Colin Ullery in the number 62 Sim Shots scheme right there. A little bit of a different look on the Sim Shots Chevrolet this week. Kind of an inverted scheme. Got a little bit of chrome on the bottom side of that race truck as well. So we got to keep an eye out for him. He's already picked up 4 positions. Matt Cherry in the number 38 also picking up 4 positions. And how about Birthday Boy? That's right, Ben Mashburn. Happy birthday to the man who's running the old Bill Elliott throwback right there, the Big Mac Tonight scheme. Really good looking hot rod. We really liked it 2 weeks ago at Darlington for the Brookstone Animal Hospital throwback event that we had there, but sporting it again here tonight in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Absolutely love that scheme. It definitely is a looker, has the moon on the hood as he works his way onto the backstretch here.
I mean, we voted on the scheme, the throwback of the race there at Darlington, and this was a close second for me. I think I let my personal fandom get in the way of voting for this number 24 machine. I was just a real big Rusty fan back in the day, so seeing the number 26 scheme with the old Miller scheme that Rusty ran there, I believe in 93, 94, one of those 2 years, was the 26 truck that we saw last week. So the number 24, though, if I was a bigger Bill Elliott fan, that probably would have gotten my vote. But fantastic scheme this week. Nonetheless, cool to see that number 24 scheme back this week as Chris Darling now making his way forward a little bit. That 11 truck started in 7th, now fighting for 3rd, potentially going to get by JT Poole right here. But that 07 is starting to make a pretty solid recovery here, Peter, after having a huge moment through 3 and 4 early on. Izinga gets in really deep and taps the back bumper of that number 11. Not really a viable move right there for Izinga, and he just decided, I'm just going to drive in there anyways, and a little bit of contact. Really good job by both of those drivers to not lose it, but some aggressive driving here early on in this race as the 07 almost kind of like lost it. The number 11 showing his displeasure through 3 and 4 right there. I kind of don't blame Chris Darling for that one, but certainly not happy with the move that Izinga pulled going into 1 that last time by.
Yeah, we're watching all the action right here. The number 14 of Jeff Price now sneaking up into the picture right there in his Chevrolet. Got Back Channel Productions on the hood of that car. Of course, looking out front at the back of Ben Izenga's 07 machine. Not the first time we have seen Ben Izenga have some trouble here in the opening 10 laps here. Want to thank everyone for joining us here on 3 Wide TV here tonight as we close in on 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. We got a pretty active chat here tonight saying, going to be a good day, Peter, LOL. Tana Himmelman said, I can't count how many hours this summer Drew has logged in iRacing and Rocket League. He's going to have withdrawals when school starts back. William Kerwin saying, come on past the number 26 machine. And, Steven Doziak saying, not missing much. This track sucks. Doze, this track is awesome. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. This track is absolutely awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. This is the... Oh, contact! There goes the 07 of Ben Izenga in the wall. Chris Darling might have had enough of him. And the 07, the Canadian driver of Ben Izenga, that truck is junked up, Drew.
There was a little bit more contact with Izinga and Chris Darling, and I think that Darling, I know, has been kind of frustrated with the way that he has been raced quite a bit this year, and I think, that was it right there for Darling in that number 11 machine. As just going into turn 3, he's just going to drive it in a little deep, and boop, there goes the 07 around hard into the outside wall. When there's no banking here in these corners, there's nothing to keep that truck's momentum from just carrying him into the outside wall. That's exactly what happened right there, and that is some big damage from that 07. I doubt he is going to be able to at least be competitive in this race, but maybe he will decide to keep going. But going to be interesting to see what is done officially right here. So we're now going to be replayed right here with Izinga and Darling, just kind of setting this whole thing up right here. And Peter, where in this sequence of events is this taking place?
This is about a half lap before that contact. You see Izinga going around the outside here, really pinches down Chris Darling. You see there might have been a little bit of contact there between the 11 and the 07, and Izinga gets to the high side. So I think the big question was there contact in turn number 1 between those two, and that might have been what upset Chris Darling. Then as they go off into turn number 3, there's the contact and the S2R machine in the wall hard. It is night done for sure for Ben Izinga and the 07 machine here on 3 Wide TV. We're back live right now. As you can see, all your leaders are on pit road. Andrew Himmelman's going to win the race off. Mitchell Adams, JT Poole, James Arello, Ben Adams, and then Jeff Price, looks like the number 62 then, and then just a whole slew of trucks that it'd be difficult for me to say on top of that, but you do see the lone 07 machine sitting all by his lonesome on pit road with a very heavily damaged race machine, that is for sure. Meanwhile, first caution flag of the night here in the Master Millwright 200. Big shout out to Master Millwright. There is a link in the description. I have added it, so you might have to refresh the page, but I have added a link to their Facebook page, Master Millwright Industrial, as well as a link to their email address. That is millwrightmachine@gmail.com. So, folks, make sure you check them out here tonight. If you need something machined up or some sheet metal work, well, Master Millwright will help you out with that. Great partner of a couple of the leagues that we broadcast here on 3 Wide TV, so always great to have them on the title of the race. There's a beautiful look at turn number 1, Drew, and of course you kind of mentioned it earlier that this racetrack is kind of like a Darlington where the banking is different on both ends of the racetrack. You have turn number 1 and 2, which not only is it a little bit wider, but you have a lot more banking there. Then you have turn number 3. It's a lot flatter and a lot wider. This racetrack races so differently on end to end.
It's certainly a different challenge, especially in Darlington. You can really feel how different the corners are, right? 1 and 2 is really banked wide open for the most part. 3 and 4 is really tight. Here in Twin Ring Motegi, you can almost forget which corner you're going in. Is this the tight one? Is this the more open one? Because they just look so similar going into them that it can be a real challenge just to make sure you're approaching each corner correctly. Speaking of this track and kind of people's opinions on it, I know they're reconfiguring Atlanta to some dumb configuration. Why are we not making stuff like Twin Ring, which, whether you like it or not, at least it's different, right? At least it's a real racetrack that's not all gimmicked up with PJ1 and whatnot. But hey, soapbox aside, we're back green here at Twin Ring Motegi. That number 8 chose the outside lane here on the restart. Drew Himmelman with a good restart over Mitchell Adams, as now our top 5 looks quite a bit different here, Peter, after that contact between 2 of our front runners over this, I guess, 3 or 4 laps right there. Mitchell Adams, though, once again, another strong run in that number 49 truck. He is technically our regular season points leader by quite a large margin. Number 49, Mitchell Adams, so steady, so consistent all season long. Almost 3 wide, though, back here with the number 38 truck, and I believe that's the 14 as well. Some interesting moves going on in the middle of the pack right there. This track might be wide enough for that, but the racing group certainly is not really supportive of 3 wide maneuvers right there. But, it becomes harder and harder to gain track position as these runs go on, Peter, that the best time to make up track position is really on these restarts, which leads to this kind of aggressive driving, because guys know once these tires come up to temp, once we start getting on in this run, it's going to be harder to make up these positions.
Yeah, that is for sure. You can see already the racetrack kind of stringing itself out a little bit. There's Chris Darling in the number 11 machine, a little bit back behind Adam Dama, who's side-by-side right now with Nick Bradley in the number 40. They're working their way through turn number 1 and 2, and then Darling getting underneath the number 4 machine of Nick Kessler. There's Doug Milliner back there as well in the Louisville number 6 machine. Also Vincent Valvano back there, the 00 machine right there. Steven Doziak and Brian Bradley, the other trucks on the lead lap. Jordan Shepler in the number 13. Not sure why he is a little bit back behind. He might have had a long slide or something, but he's lost kind of that group. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, here comes James Arello, last year's race winner here at Twin Ring Motegi in the number 9, trying to go around the number 26 machine of JT Poole, as the number 49 of Mitchell Adams is there in second. Lorello unable to clear Poole coming out of turn number 2. They'll race down the backstretch and off into turn number 3.
Yeah, these 3 drivers, Mitchell Adams, James Zarello, and JT Poole, were nose to tail through 3 and 4 that last time by, and there was a little bit of bumper tag going on between them. Lorello hit the back of the 26, which pushed the 26 into the back of the 49. Pretty low energy bumping, if that makes sense, right? There's not a huge speed difference between these trucks, and it was kind of just like almost a super speedway bump draft between them. Didn't unsettle them or anything, but just some really interesting driving going on here through the corners here early on. But that 26 of JT Poole seems to really be quick for the first few laps as we get going on these restarts, but seems to be struggling just a little bit as these runs go on, as now that number 5 truck of Ben Adams is looking to make a move for 4th position as JT continues to just fall back a little bit, but Mitchell Adams and James Lorello closing in on Drew Himmelman up front.
Yeah, that number 5 machine now up into the 4th spot, which is where he started. That slides JT Poole back to where he started in the 5th position. Meanwhile, Lorello is the biggest mover inside the top 5 right now. He's picked up 3 spots since the top of the night. But yeah, Himmelman and Adams currently 1-2. And how many times have we seen these two drivers 1-2 here on the channel? So many times you can barely count it. I know Tana in the chat will be rooting him on. Johnny Williams rooting on Chris Darling here tonight. Jason Bean saying, Tana, Mama's watching tonight. She is currently looking for Ben. Well, I can show you where Ben is right now. He is right there in the 4th position in that number 5 truck. So, trying to show up Andrew, but Andrew is currently leading the race. The battle of the household there between Andrew Himmelman and Ben Adams. Himmelman up to a 4/10 of a second lead right now over Mitchell Adams. We will watch that battle as this race goes on. Pretty much all single file throughout the field. We'll get a little look here of the starter cam as the field races on by. There goes Himmelman, Adams, Lorello, Adams, and Poole. And then you see everyone else kind of snake their way around the racetrack here tonight. But one thing I'm thinking of here, Drew, is of course, as you see the one straggler back there, that is Jordan Shepler, is going back to Andrew Himmelman at Darlington Raceway 2 weeks ago. We've mentioned the similarities of how this track is different end to end. Himmelman was lights out at Darlington. I mean, untouchable there, and trying to go back-to-back here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's on paper similar to Darlington. It's almost like if Darlington in Michigan had a one-night fling and had a kid that wasn't planned, and then that would be Twin Ring Motegi, right? It has those really big, wide, flat corners, kind of like Michigan, but it has the asymmetry of Darlington. I mean, I would think it doesn't really drive like Darlington, so I wouldn't think that necessarily would play into it, but I think that being able to be consistent and do it a little bit different entries, but be consistent with those entries, right? Because you do a little bit, have a different entry going into 1 and going into 3. So that skill would translate, that would be successful at Darlington. But I would think that a driver who would like the feel of a track like maybe Pocono in Turn 3 or Michigan or something like that would find this track really, really appealing. But the number 24 here, off pace. We don't typically have blown motors or loose cylinders here in iRacing, but that number 24 certainly looking like it's laying down on him.
Yeah, you can see, oof, man, Kyle Lewis, they're getting close to Ben Mashburn. I don't know what Ben is doing here, whether or not we'll see him peel onto pit road. Indeed, we will. Maybe he has decided to get a Big Mac tonight. Maybe he's hungry. I'm not sure. It is his birthday. Perhaps this was a planned deal where he was only going to kind of start the race and do kind of a starting park, but he's going to come into his pit box. So tough troubles here early on for a driver of the number 24. That is Ben Mashburn. Also kind of wondering, maybe, just maybe, Drew, we've had some issues here the past couple of weeks in iRacing of drivers not getting fuel. I don't know what it is, but sometimes you'll come into your pit box and you won't get any fuel. I wonder, maybe that could have been what happened to Ben Mashburn. That's something we're going to have to monitor here as we continue on, and whether or not he will continue on in that number 24 truck, or whether that will be night done for the birthday boy. I know I was told earlier today to get the birthday boy in early for Ben Mashburn, so maybe that was part of it as well. Here's the 62, Colin Ullery battling with the number 38 machine. That is Matt Cherry. They are side by side. This is currently the battle for the 6th position. You see a couple of the trucks back there right behind, trying to battle for that spot. Currently 7th on the racetrack, Ullery, Cherry, Dumas, and Neal. As looks like for right now, it will be Colin Ullery taking that spot away from Matt Cherry. And we'll see if Matt Cherry can kind of hold on through. He's one of those drivers who needs a good run here tonight if he wants to make his way towards the top 10 playoffs here for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to lose points to Jamar Dumas, right? Like, that's not ideal, but I don't think he has to finish second or third. I think just finishing in front of Jamar Dumas, right? That would take a couple points away from Jamar. And then I just remember how quick Cherry was at Charlotte last season, though it didn't pay out finish-wise, but that's kind of been the history of Matt Cherry here, is tons of speed, hasn't really been able to finish where he's run very often, especially these intermediate tracks. But that's what you don't want to give up that spot right now. You want to make him earn it. You want to kind of put him in position to race you really hard. But it's going to be difficult. It just looks like both the 38 and the 28 just overdriving the entry a little bit there into turn 3. Typically when a driver drives too hard into the corner, it's kind of hard to necessarily see that. But when they run up high like that and they kind of lose the front end, that's very often what happens when you just overdrive the corner. And I believe that's in 3 and 4, Peter, which is a little bit tighter than 1 and 2. So maybe those guys just struggle a little bit adjusting those brake markers, those turn-in points going into 3 and 4.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. Now we jump up to the front of the field battle right now for the 3rd positions between last year's race winner here at Twin Ring Motegi and Ben Adams. So last year's race winner of James Arello going to slide back to the 4th position right now. That is a little bit surprising. Let's jump back to that battle for the 8th position between Matt Cherry and Doug Neal. There they are. Jamar Dumas in the number 28 machine right in front of Robert Dudley, who's picked up 10 positions from the drop of the green flag. Only Nick Bradley has picked up more spots than the driver of that number 48 machine. And then a little bit further back, Chris Darling is continuing his climb. Oh, almost getting into the back there of Nick Bradley. It was close on entry. This is the battle for 13th position, I should say, as Darling continues his climb back up through the field after being involved in the only caution flag we have had here in the opening 29 laps at Twin Ring Motegi, the Master Millwright 200 in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Tonight is round number 13 on the season, and just one more race after tonight to separate these drivers in the playoffs here in this championship. Battle right now brewing for the 6th position. This is JT Poole, Colin Ullery, and I'm seeing a lot of right side damage on the number 26 machine, Drew. I can't help but think maybe JT Poole has smacked the wall.
Yeah, a cool scheme in Japanese there, I believe. Probably that's probably us in Japanese there on the number 26 machine. Really cool for the digital Japanese spectators. I can't read Japanese, but a cool little detail nonetheless. But a good job by Ullery, kind of setting him up through 1 and 2 right there, cutting back under on exit, and I think he's going to be able to cruise on by as maybe a little bit of an overdrive into 3 and 4. Can the 26 do the over-under on that number 62 machine? Oh, a little tight on the exit of 3 and 4 right there, but I think that over time the 62 is very likely to prevail. It's just making sure that you finish the pass, Peter. You can put yourself in position and work, and it just takes one kind of moment to kind of undo that work, as now that number 62 machine back underneath JT Poole. Same scenario as we saw last time, folks, through 3 and 4. This time, Ullery did not overdrive the entry, but I think that 26 is going to be able to roll the outside, and this is what we were talking about, Peter. Oh, is the 26 against the outside wall? Maybe not what we were talking about. I think we know how the 26 got that right side damage now. It certainly is not better after that contact, but that exit out of 4, certainly a tight one, but as you saw there, Peter, you can really fight on the outside once these tires get up to temp, and it just becomes so difficult to pass.
Yeah, that is for sure. And of course, once you have a little bit of right side damage, it tightens up the truck, makes it more difficult to pass. And then you go out there, you hit the wall again, it makes the truck even tighter, it makes it even more difficult to pass, and it just ends up being a cyclical loop. So sometimes it takes some, figuring out how your truck's going to drive once you've got a little bit of damage. It is going to be a little bit tighter. You're going to have to be patient with the truck just to kind of get that truck pointed in the right direction again and keep it off of the wall. So JT Poole here kind of adding insult to injury on that 26 truck as he falls into the clutches now of Doug Neal. Last time by, just for comparison, Doug Neal was quite a bit faster than JT Poole. We'll see if we can bring up that lap time history between those two trucks right there. In fact, you can see over the last 5 laps, Doug Neal has been anywhere from 0.2 to 0.6 of a second faster, and that is pretty much going to be all she wrote as Doug Neal dives to the inside of JT Poole, picks up that spot. Poole going to fall now into the clutches of Matt Cherry, definitely sliding back now. Meanwhile, Justin White locked in a battle with Nick Kessler. This is a battle for the 12th position right now between these two. Christopher Darling a little bit further back, and woof, man. Justin White almost getting into the outside wall. Kessler up to 12th, and Robert Dudley now under fire from Kessler. They're going to be side by side as they head through turn number 3 and 4. Kessler on the inside, trying to go kind of a 2-for-1, pick up 2 positions in about a lap. Great job by Kessler. He's now up to 11th. He is 2 positions down from where he started at the top of the show in the Taz Racing Customs Chevy Silverado. But for right now, Nick Kessler trying to climb on up. And I'm just wondering, Drew, if he's been maybe saving his tires a little bit. But up at the front of the field, we have a new second-place driver. It is Ben Adams, who's gotten around Mitchell Adams here a couple of laps ago. We will see here on the 3-wide TV replay how that pass happened. Here comes Ben Adams. He got a great run on Mitchell Adams coming out of turn number 4. Just showed his nose to the inside. Mitchell just kind of stayed up there, and just like that, we had a new second-place driver. That is Ben Adams. And now, can Ben run down Andrew? That is the question. Can it happen? Well, you see the gap up ahead to Andrew Himmelman. That gap right now just about 2 seconds. Let's see if we can bring up the lap time history between those two. And it's kind of backwards, this graphic. It's not the biggest fan in the world, but that Andrew Himmelman on the bottom last time by was 0.2 of a second faster. This time by 1.5 Himmelman was faster. The green is good for Himmelman. The red is bad for Himmelman. Yeah, you get the idea. But for right now, it is Andrew Himmelman just pulling away up at the front of the field. Mitchell Adams back to 3rd. Now we do have a new 4th place driver as well, Jeff Price, in the back channel Productions machine, starting to creep in on the front 3. There he is. So you can see Mitchell Adams there, bottom of your screen. Jeff Price. Let's kind of get the gap between these two and see how these two are closing in on one another. You see, not big numbers right there, not big differences between the 3rd and 4th place trucks, although that time is just about 1/10 of a second. So, yeah, that battle might pop up and rear its head over the next couple of laps. Nick Kessler, though, still battling for positions. This was for the 9th position, Drew. We saw him pick up 11th, 10th, and now he's caught Matt Cherry for 9th.
And both of these drivers have caught that 26 machine, who just continues to struggle with that right side damage, does JT Poole. And the 38, not really anywhere to go as they get really close on corner entry. I think Matt Cherry wanted that number 4 machine to know, hey, I'm going to force a 3-wide right here, but almost made contact with that number 4 machine to his inside. But they managed to get through it. But that's the kind of driving that's endangered Matt Cherry's finishing position at so many places that he has been so strong at. The number 11 of Chris Darling continues to make his way forward as we saw good pace from that 11 early on. Of course, then the contact between he and Izenga early on in this race, which set him back with a little bit of damage to that number 11, both front and rear, as a result of that sequence of events between those two drivers. But back up to 11th position, and really impressive what Chris is doing cutting through this field.
Yeah, that is for sure. We just saw Nick Bradley make a move on Jamar Dumas, who's now falling into the clutches of Adam Dama. Here comes Dama looking to the inside in the number 82 Army Esports Racing Machine. Justin White kind of watching these two in front of him. There we go, on board with driver of the number 2 machine, looking at Dumas, who's definitely losing out on that position. If he's not careful, he's going to lose out on another. And with Dumas kind of in a precarious points position entering the night here, things not looking good for the Pittsburgh Penguins Chevy Silverado. Of course, Dumas was the 8th place driver in points here tonight, so he was in the playoffs based off of his point standings, but he is going to fall down to the 15th position here as they run. There is Andrew Himmelman, your race leader, by 2.5 seconds on Ben Adams. Mitchell Adams in third, another second or so back, then another second back to Jeff Bryce, then another second back to James Arello, and then 2 seconds back to Colin Ullery, and then a second back to Doug Neal, and then a second back to Nick Kessler, who is closing in on Doug Neal. But then we have about another second back to Matt Cherry, who's right there, another second back to Chris Darling. If you guys get the picture, it's the field pretty spread out here, although JT Poole, who, yep, like you said, Drew, continuing to lose positions here, lost that spot to Chris Darling, and if he's not careful, he's about to lose a spot to the biggest mover of the race so far, Nick Bradley.
Yep, and I mean, that 26 just continuing to struggle. He's going to fall back until, Peter, do we have a stage break in this? I think so. It should be close, I imagine, if we do have one here at Twin Ring.
Yeah, in fact, it is. It is coming up here very soon. I believe it will be on lap number 50 here tonight at the racetrack. So we will see about that. It might come out on lap number 45. We'll see when the admins elect to throw that caution flag here tonight. But for right now, Adam Dama now making the move on JT Poole. So move Dama up into the 12th position in the Army Esports Racing Machine. Andrew Himmelman is your race leader. Ben Adams in the number 5 is second. Mitchell Adams still in third. You're not missing anything really out there right now. Best battles on the racetrack are further back in the pack, looking at Nick Bradley, who in turn is looking at the back bumper of Chris Darling. And then you have to kind of go further back. There is Steven Doziak racing side by side with the driver of the number 48 machine of Robert Dudley. Now, Dudley in that number 48 truck came down pit road on lap number 40. Same thing with Brian Bradley, who came down on lap number 36. Those drivers not exactly sure what their strategy is or was, but there is Brian Bradley, who is currently, I believe, in the position to pick up the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. So when that caution flag does fly, we will have to see. And no, I take that back. The driver who's in position for the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award is the number 13 of Jordan Shepler, who looks like he has banged it off the wall with the right side of that truck all being crumpled in as well.
Yeah, some of these guys just struggling with exit. I think, Peter, we anticipated these trucks being really loose, as now we see the number 11 and number 2 coming off pit road. No kazoo for Chris Darling this time. He just barely overshot his pit box and had to back up just a bit. But interesting to see, can these guys stretch it to the stage break? If not, I mean, if they can, bad news for everybody who's pitted. If not, I wonder how much they're paying attention, because, Peter, that's one of those things that I forget about. But here we go. Caution is out, so that's going to trap guys like Chris Darling, like all these other drivers. Interesting strategy by that number 11 to make that stop. Interesting for these guys who are who stayed out. Going to be interesting overall to see how this pans out for these drivers, Pete.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. So this is the one and only stage caution that we have here. Now, points do get paid out. So I'm sure one driver who will be very happy is that man right there. That is Matt Cherry, who was inside the top 10. He will gain a few extra points, and of course, a couple of the other trucks around him not picking up points. So that is good news for Cherry and his hunt to make it to the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs. And of course, this does give us an opportunity to check out the chat here tonight. Let's go check it out. 6-Speed Sally saying, let's go Adam Dama. Dan Ebbelman in the chat saying, Ben and I were both saying we've never seen anything like it in our lives. 350,000 plus people in downtown Nashville for the fireworks last weekend. Of course, last weekend was the 4th of July weekend. Hopefully everyone here in the chat had a good 4th of July if you're in the United States. Malware Racing saying, I drove 14 hours to Doug Neal's house today, sitting here watching him race in his rig and watching the broadcast hitting the Atlanta race on Sunday. Awesome. The only thing that's unfortunate about that is you could not bring your sim rig. That would have been awesome, Nathan. But thanks for joining us here on 3Y TV and catching all the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series action right here on the channel. And we really would appreciate a thumbs up if you're enjoying the broadcast. It looks like Andrew Himmelman and Mitchell Adams winning the race off pit road. Biggest loser, definitely Ben Adams, losing a couple of spots there. Drew, not sure exactly what happened to him, but looks like he is going to be the 4th truck off pit lane.
Yeah, less than an ideal stop for that driver. In that number 5, losing 2 positions and starting on that outside lane. Though might not be the worst case scenario if that 8 once again chooses the outside, Peter. Honestly, I would much rather be on the outside starting right behind the race leader than start second. I think that you're probably in a little bit better position right there, as a bunch of drivers are going to get the wave around. But the number 13 of Jordan Shepler gets our Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. I believe this is the first recipient of the lucky dog that we have given tonight, Peter. So congratulations to that number 13 machine. He will get that truck back on the lead lap and hopefully get some repairs done to their right side. Is looking a little scuffed up right there. But we're going to have 2 drivers take the wave around. That will be Chris Darling and who else? Robert Dudley in the 48 machine. Those 2 drivers did not pit. They pitted right before that caution stage break came out. So they'll get the wave around. Drew Himmelman, though, still our race leader. As we mentioned, another guy, though, Peter, that really likes where he's sitting as far as the stage was concerned is Jeff Price in that 14 machine, who was, I believe, 18 points behind Jamar Dumas, and he finished the stage in 5th position. So an outstanding first stage for that number 14 machine.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, there was quite a few drivers out there here who really impressed me in that first run. Of course, Andrew Himmelman for sure. Jeff Price, you mentioned it, in that number 14, racing his way up towards the top 5, and definitely looked like he had a lot of long-run pace. I think the big question is going to be, will we now see a lot of green flag racing? We saw that long green flag run. We had a couple of drivers who had to come down pit road, like Chris Darling. Darling was one of them. Robert Dudley had to come down pit road. We believe they didn't have enough fuel to make it to the stage break. At least that's what we think. We're not 100% sure on that, but we saw a lot of green flag run. What's the window going to be like? We saw maybe a 35 lap run there from the first caution that came out. Perhaps we can see more green flag racing as the night goes on, and hopefully we do. That is what we love to see here on 3Y TV. The best thing in the world, folks, on 3Y TV is green flag 3-wide racing. You cannot beat it here in the National Sim Racing Association. Some people might say 4-wide, but then at that point you probably can't understand me because I'm shouting or screaming or doing something. But we can handle 3-wide. That's who we are. We are 3-wide TV. And we do thank you for tuning in here on the channel as we coin new terms. Last night, we had Robert Kenny in the field, and we said a top 10-y for Kenny. He did not get a top 10-y last night here in the GTR Simulators Super Speedway Series in the National Sim Racing Association, but we coined a new term, so that's okay. That's we do that quite a bit here on the channel. I don't know how they all pop up, and maybe you in the chat, maybe you're keeping track of them at home. Hopefully you are, because you're probably doing a better job of it than I am. Pace car lights are off. We're about to get set to go back to green flag racing here at Twin Ring Motegi, the Master Millwright 200. If you're just now joining us, second caution flag of the night was a stage caution. Now we are back, green flag racing, now into the second third of the race. 1/3 of the race in the rear. We're closing in quickly here, Drew, on the halfway mark as Himmelman, Adams, and Lorello, your top 4, able to get single file.
Yeah, a really good restart by Mitchell Adams. As good of a restart as I think we've really seen from that inside line thus far here tonight at Twin Ring Motegi. But the number 9 of James Dorello challenging that number 5 of Ben Adams for 3rd position. I think Ben's going to just give it to him going into 3 as all these guys are getting really aggressive. Going through 3 and 4, that number 77 trying to make the outside work. That is Doug Neal in that neon yellow number 77 Simbox machine. Going to the outside of Colin Olery in that number 62. That outside can work, Peter, but it's certainly challenging, and it's kind of the more difficult route to try to make a pass work. But it looks like Doug is really holding steady right there, trying to get some draft maybe off of that number 14 of Jeff Price, and a good run off of turn 2 for Doug Neal. I think 3 and 4 are actually better on the high lane. We will see if that's the case as the 4 gets real wide right there. He certainly overdrove the entry of turn 3 as Olery and Neal continue to run side by side now. 77 clear of that number 62 machine. And now what will that 38 do? He thought about looking low on Colin, but now the 14 of Jeff Price running a little wide on entry, just kind of almost showing Doug Neal, daring him to go low on him, but a really good exit for that number 14. Looking a little bit further back, that 26 of JT. Now a little bit further back even than that is Doug Milner back here running in 17th position, racing Chris Darling to his outside, who of course got that wave around that last time by. That number 11 certainly is not 17th position pace, but doesn't really matter what your pace is, it's where you're running on track, and right now Darling certainly has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few drivers with a lot of work to do out there on the racetrack if they want to work their way up to the front and beat this driver right here. It's been absolutely lights out from the drop of the green flag. Andrew Himmelman picked up the Craig Setup Shop Bowl Award at the top of the show and is working his way out of turn number 4 once again to lead yet another lap. And his dominance goes all the way back to 2 weeks ago at Darlington Raceway, which was the last event that we had here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Of course, we had a week off for 4th of July, but just continuing to lay down fast laps. But we have seen some really good racing here, Drew. We saw it last season here in the National Sim Racing Association, that this racetrack, it's tough, it's tricky, but the racing that you can get here is usually quite clean, and it is also quite fun to watch because these drivers really have to drive this racetrack.
Yeah, it's fun as a driver. I think that the tracks that tend to be the most rewarding when you're actually in the machine turning laps don't always necessarily produce the most spectacular non-stop side-by-side racing. Like, this isn't Daytona, it's not Talladega, but if every race were Daytona and Talladega, those races would lose their meaning in what makes them special, right? See, my biggest problem with NASCAR these days is they're trying to recreate that every race, but the super speedway stuff is special because it's only 2, 3, 4 times a year in real life. So, but as a driver, tracks like Twin Ring Motegi, like New Hampshire, Milwaukee comes to mind. Those real big flat tracks that are just a huge challenge as a driver wrangling that thing around the track. They can produce their own versions of those good races. It doesn't take the entire field going 2-3 wide to make for good racing. It takes individual battles and drivers battling it out side by side, crossing under and over each other like we've seen here tonight, that really can provide great racing throughout the field and on merit too. Not everyone. It's not a freeway race, right? These guys are really having to not only drive the track but drive each other, and it's my kind of favorite form of oval racing are these kind of big challenging tracks. As JT Poole looks like he has that 26 machine fairly repaired right there, going after that 82 of Adam Dama. A really good run here tonight, Peter, by that number 82 machine. I think this is as well as Dama's run here in NSRA.
Yeah, currently running in the 11th position, just on the outside of the top 10 looking in, and we do know that he's kept his truck relatively clean. Maybe a little bit of rear end damage there on the U.S. Army Esports Racing Machine at this current juncture of the race. Working lap number 58. Here comes JT Poole, however, looking to the inside of Dama through turn number 1 and 2. Maybe we spoke a little bit too soon there, Drew, as he is going to slide back to the 12th position here. That is the only real battle for position out there on the racetrack. You're not missing anything up front as Andrew Himmelman has scooted away. Just wondering if maybe some of the aero benefits of having the clean air on the nose is starting to come to fruition here for Andrew Himmelman, as lap after lap he's turning the fastest laps of anyone in the field. Fastest lap actually of the entire race is now held by Andrew Himmelman with a 287, excuse me. That is about 0.8 of a second slower than the lap time Andrew Himmelman just ran. So already 0.8 of a second drop off here in about 10 laps since we went back to green flag racing, as James Arello has caught the back bumper of Mitchell Adams. These two right here, looking back behind them is Ben Adams, who's had a fantastic run here tonight as well. And I heard some interesting things from Ben Adams about this racetrack, Drew, and that is something we haven't talked about here tonight, but that is shifting. These drivers are actually shifting in turn number 3 and 4, and he said that's something that you're going to have to get right here tonight if you're going to want to be fast here, as we see Lorello make the move on Mitchell Adams, but here comes Adams right back on Lorello.
Yeah, it makes me kind of think about kind of the older stuff like Pocono, even Phoenix at times. You had to really get that shifting down, especially in vehicles like those 87s where you got to actually use the clutch. I think that brings a whole new level of skill into it. But just knowing how to time it, knowing how to blip it, knowing when to use that engine braking, when to shift it up into gear to reduce that engine braking, that's all a real big skill that I think is kind of underutilized by the national touring NASCAR vehicles these days, because it's a really fun thing to do, to throw it down into third, try to get that torque out of the corner, get that horsepower to pull that thing out of the corner, get back up into fourth gear. And I think we're seeing it work for that number 5 machine of Ben Adams on these longer runs especially. This is about the time in that last run where we really saw that 5 machine start to stretch its legs a little bit and really start to show his pace. And I think that's what we're starting to see now. The same with that number 8 machine, right? After about the first 10 laps, then we really saw that number 8 start to stretch his lead, as now he's 2 to 3 tenths quicker than those guys behind him. And Ben Adams trying to apply pressure to both James Zarello and Mitchell Adams. I think if that 5 machine gets back up to second, he will slowly inch away from those other 2 drivers. But Peter, it's just so hard to set up a pass, especially when those guys in front of you are battling for that second position between themselves.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Ben Adams, that is, just kind of lurking in the shadows right now. Let's look at this battle right now. This is the battle for the 8th position. We have seen some stellar racing for the 8th position here tonight. Here's Matt Cherry and Nicholas Bradley. Of course, Nick in the number 40 machine picking up 15 positions from the drop of the green flag. By far the biggest mover of the race to this current point. Trying to pick up that Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover Award, that is for sure, in the Rocket City Woodworks machine here down the front stretch. You see JT Poole, who's probably supplanted himself inside the top 10 after getting that damage repaired. Meanwhile, Nick Kessler going to work on Stan Hausman. This is a battle for the 13th position right now, and in front of them is the number 28 of Jamar Dumas riding in 12th. Looks like Kessler will slide up in front of Hausman and pick up that position right there. In fact, Kessler, we saw this in the last run, Drew, where Kessler all of a sudden felt like he had a fire underneath him and started picking up spots left, right, and center. And this time, he's going to do another 2-for-1. Got around Hausman, and now has got around Jamar Dumas as Dumas slides back into the clutches of Stan Hausman.
As we close in on halfway here at Twin Ring Motegi, we're seeing some guys really start to figure this track out. Other guys not as much. That number 4 really had that kind of big issue through 3 and 4, ran really wide and cost himself quite a bit of track position, battling for that track position back now. A guy who not really is going very well for his race thus far is that number 28 machine, who is continuing to fall back now in 14th position, as now Vinny Galvano and Chris Darling battling back here for 16th position, as he is, Chris Darling that is trying to close in on Stephen Doziak. The number 38 machine of Matt Cherry battling Nicholas Bradley there for 9th position, 8th and 9th position rather, as Matt Cherry having a solid run right here, trying to stave off Bradley, but a really good run for this number 40 machine of Nicholas Bradley, who has kind of been hit and misses. Oh, Cherry gets really sideways, is able to save it. Wow, what a moment right there through 3 and 4, Peter.
Yeah, we're going to have to dial that one up here and get a 3-wide TV on board of that one. This is going to be one wild ride on board. In fact, we're going to go all the way back to the pass that was made there through kind of turn number 1 and 2. There is Nicholas Bradley just clearing Matt Cherry, who we're on board with right now. Going down the back stretch, you saw him use that draft a little bit just to kind of close up onto the back bumper. But watch these hands, Drew, to save this truck. Goes off into the corner, maybe runs a little bit too deep, runs a little bit high, gets on the loud pedal. Car starts to rotate a little bit, still sawing on the wheel, and then all of a sudden it just gets pointed in the right direction. And just like that, Matt Cherry able to save his truck, and I'm sure he is very happy, although he's now fallen into the clutches of Adam Dama. Dama now, we talked about him sliding back a little while ago, but Dama now just picking up the 9th position. My, oh my, I thought that was going to be contact between Dama and Cherry, but Cherry cuts underneath Adam Dama before they get to turn number 3, and no contact between the number 38 and the number 82, and Nick Kessler once again picking up positions left, right, and center. Ooh, JT Poole there smacking the wall down the front stretch. Kessler now going to try and go for the 9th position, as we're looking at the battle for the 9th position between the 4, the 38, the 82, and the number 26, Drew.
Yeah, Matt Cherry's like back in that 38 into turns 3. It's remarkable. I'm wondering if he's being a little too aggressive with his downshifts and almost chattering that rear end going into turn 3. Because when you watch that 38 machine, you just see that rear step out as soon as he turns into the corner, and he's just kind of catching that thing all the way through the center. Interesting driving. It's certainly not really paying off on the time sheets, as he's really struggling with that rear end, especially through turns 3 and 4. It's spectacular to watch, but it's not going to pay off in timing and scoring, as he's continuing to basically just hold off those guys behind him, or attempt to, as you see that number 4 machine, who was, by the way, just about a car length ahead of him last time by at about this point in the track, just scooting away, as that number 38 machine not only is trying to hold these guys behind him, but is not that far ahead of Jamar Dumas, who is what the truck he really needs to stay in front of, as now Adam Dama makes a move. But of note, Peter, we had a little 3-wide moment when we were looking at that replay of Cherry, and there was actually a little bit of contact between Dama and JT Poole. It looked like Dama just went up on JT just a little bit on the exit of 2, just door-to-door contact, nothing major, but JT letting them know over the radio, hey man, don't door check me, coming out of the corner. Not too happy with that, but the number 40 of Nicholas Bradley battling Colin Ullery right here. This is for that 7th position, as Bradley going on that high lane, hanging it out up there, making that high lane work for him, as now Nicholas Bradley will be scored in 7th position. Ullery falling back to 8th. A really solid run by this number 40 machine, as he continues to have a solid run, only about 2.5 seconds behind 3rd position right now.
Yeah, that is definitely the case, and you can see that Bradley was actually able to get around Colin Ullery that last lap, so was able to not only run him down, but now is up to 7th, and showing us how it's done here tonight, plus 17 spots since the drop of the green flag. Meanwhile, we got a battle for positions. Here comes Ben Adams once again, starting to make some noise. We saw him really strong under the first long green flag run that we had of the night, and once again, making the move on Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion. In fact, back-to-back series champion here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series in the National Sim Racing Association. So move Adams now back to fourth. Ben Adams, Adams and Adams. One of them's in third, one of them's in fourth. And they are that way. They were that way the lap before, but they were swapped. Yeah, whatever. You guys get the drill. Ben Adams now in front of Mitchell Adams, the 5 and the 49 here on your screen. It is a little bit of a gap up to James Lorello, and Lorello has actually been kind of clawing away just a little bit at the race lead. You can see over the last 5 laps here, the race lead has come down from about 1.2 seconds now down to about 0.7 of a second. So Lorello averaging about 1/10 of a second per lap faster than Andrew Himmelman. So we will have to wait and see whether or not Himmelman's dominance here of the race starts to go by the wayside here, as we are now very much into the back half of the Master Millwright 200. Big shout out to Master Millwright. If you're just now joining us, there is a link to their Facebook page in the description, as well as an email. And if you don't know what Master Millwright is, well, they are millwrights. They can fabricate a lot of different stuff with their mills that they have, and a great sponsor up in Old Forge, Pennsylvania. So definitely go check them out and hit them up if you need something machined, because they are the place to go. And Drew, what I'm seeing here on my screen right now is a battle for the race lead, as James Lorello has all but cut that 0.7 of a second race lead in half here in about 2 laps.
Yeah, I don't know if the 9 just figured something out or if the 8 is really struggling, but the 9 is just killing Drew Himmelman coming in, especially to turn 3, as we'll see riding on board with this number 8 machine. Coming out of turn 2 now, down the backstretch. Watch how deep this 9 can get into turn 3 relative to Drew Himmelman, at least if history repeats itself. Look how much time he gains right there, Peter, all the way onto the back bumper. That's 3 truck lengths Lorello gains just going into turn 3. A remarkable entry, but here comes Lorello onto pit road. Didn't expect this. Interesting strategy move by this number 9 machine. That's a late commitment, but it looked like he got it slowed down in time. Maybe a little bit of an undercut right here for Lorello, trying to get around Drew Himmelman without having to battle him on the track.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You know, there's one way to beat that other truck, and that's beat him to pit road. So here we are. Locks up the tires, 58 laps to go. So that kind of splits the race into 2 lap periods. So let's see if Andrew Himmelman right here, there's a look of the driver out of Fayetteville, Tennessee. Will he come down pit road? Sure enough, the SimShots number 8 machine going to peel off, and not as late of an entry. Here comes Ben Adams and Mitchell Adams. Whoa, big wiggle out of Mitchell Adams. Looks like we also got the number 62, Colin Ullery on pit road. JT Poole on pit road having a wiggle. Chris Darling, Matt Cherry. Great look of pit road there for all of your fans back at home. So now the big question is going to be James Lorello, who's out there on the racetrack. How will he merge relative to Andrew Himmelman? And, it looked like Lorello got on pit road a little bit better than Himmelman here. I think this is advantage James Lorello right now.
It certainly is looking that way right now. I think that 1 lap difference is going to be what makes the difference for this race lead, as now he's coming up on Drew Himmelman right here. Nothing that 8 can do, is he has to stay on that apron till the backstretch, and just James Lorello sails on by. But Peter, 1 lap can be a substantial difference in speed as far as tires are concerned. It'll be interesting to see if that tilts slightly into the 8 of Drew Himmelman's favor there later on in this run. As now that number 14 machine of Jeff Price getting out there, leading a few laps. A really smart move by that number 14 machine, as he makes it onto pit road. And man, Peter, this is such a late entry onto pit road for these guys. It certainly makes it seem like they're going to miss their corner, but so far so good for, I believe, all these drivers. I haven't seen anyone get held or come back down pit road. Is now the number 55 machine of Steven Doziak, I believe, inherited the race lead. Maybe he didn't get that lap led that last time by, but he is the de facto race leader in that number 55 machine, as he continues to stay out, probably hoping that there's a caution, as Doug Milner right there in that number 6 machine, I believe is either second or third. It's kind of hard to tell as these things cycle out through these pit stops. But we know this man right here, as long as this cycle completes and there isn't any type of drama or anything, caution-wise or other, that this number 9 is going to be our race leader with about 2 seconds over Drew Himmelman right there. Mitchell Adams comes out in third position. Right, and now Steven Doziak coming down pit road along with several other trucks in his vicinity. And that will rotate the race lead to Doug Milner right here, who is still out on track. He is right in front of the 13 machine, which is a lap truck. That is not a Battle for position. Doug Milner, the last truck on the lead lap, or just the last truck period, to have not pitted. It'll be interesting to see how these lap times change as James Lorello, 9.8 seconds behind Doug Milner that last time by. How long can Doug stretch this? Is that going to mean he reduces an entire pit stop? It'll be interesting to see. So that was a 39.6 that last time by for Doug. I anticipate Lorello will take about 2 seconds out of that. Yeah, 7.9 seconds. It was over 9 that previous, now 7.9. So a big difference between those two drivers as far as lap times are concerned. It'll be interesting to see how that pays off for that number 6. You there, Pete?
Yes, I am here. I do apologize. I flipped my microphone upside down so I can see the mute button better, the big mute red glow, and sometimes it still just doesn't quite work. But you can see that that gap between Lorello and Milner is closing in an absolute hurry, as that time by Milner was 2.2 seconds slower than James Lorello. So we'll just wait and see how long he decides to stay out. But for right now, Doug Milner is losing plenty of time to James Lorello. There's Lorello, and Lorello's being caught here by Andrew Himmelman in his number 8 Sim Shots machine. But now, Drew, as looks like finally, that's the number 13, or is that the number 6 on pit road? That looks like the number 13 on pit road. So I thought that was Doug Milner, another red truck, but Milner's still staying out. Race lead now down to just 3.3 seconds. For everyone at home wondering when Doug Milner came down pit road, he was last on pit road on lap number 46 here tonight. That was quite some time ago, as we have just 50 laps remaining here this time by. For all of you wondering, that was 38 laps to be exact on Doug Milner. You see that number 6 machine. Will he come down pit road this time? No. He will continue to stay out there here, but we ride on board here with Andrew Himmelman, who picked up the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award. And Drew, he did not elect to go for the Buttkicker Challenge here tonight. Didn't want to attempt butt kicking the field after the prize pool was given out at Darlington. As Himmelman going around the outside of Milner, that was effectively a lead change there. It was a lead change, as James Lorello got past Milner for that race lead. And now Milner, who's on old tires, needs to go probably another, I would think, about another 8 or so laps, Drew. Although, as I say that, he's on pit road right now. I was going to say, he probably needs to go about another 8 laps to make it to the end of the race on just one more pit stop. But it looks like it's still going to have to be a 2-stop strategy for Milner as he comes to his pit crew.
Yeah, he's certainly trying to do something a little bit different than these leaders, but we're seeing right here, Peter, what 1 lap in tires means as far as a pace difference is concerned. The 8 came down 1 lap after the number 9 of James Lorello, and he's run this number 9 down from about 2 seconds back, but it's going to be really challenging for Drew Himmelman to be able to make a move on Lorello and not use up, basically, his advantage, which is the freshness of his tires relative to that number 9 machine. But a really good effort by this number 8 to run down Lorello, as there was just so much pace that number 9 had found late in that run prior to these pit stops. But we're seeing this 8 kind of figure it out and start to really catch him. Another kind of big loser on these pit stop cycle is that number 5 of Ben Adams, who lost about 7 seconds not 7 seconds, about 5 seconds to our race leader in that number 9 machine. He was only about 2-3 seconds behind those two, and now 7 seconds behind that number 9 machine, our race leader. And he's having to battle Jeff Price right here in the number 14, who continues his march forward.
Yeah, and Jeff Price on fresher tires as well in that machine right there. So you can see right there that Jeff Price pitted on lap number 79. Ben Adams pitted on lap number 77. So those 2 lap fresher tires for the number 14 of Jeff Price will allow him to scoot off into the distance, I do believe. Great run here tonight as Jeff Price not having the best of turn number 3 and 4 right there. But it has been a really good night for the number 14 machine of Jeff Price. We mentioned that before the one and only stage caution that we had here tonight, as that's not the graphic that I wanted to remove. There we go. Just one of those nights here on 3 Wide TV, folks. Yeah, Price up to 4th now. Nick Kessler in the number 4 machine. Speaking of number 4s, he is up there in 7th, right in front of Colin Ullery. 1 lap fresher tires on Nick Kessler's truck relative to Colin Ullery. So that has got the Taz Racing Customs Chevy Silverado into a pretty darn good position. Great ride for Nick Kessler here tonight. Hasn't been racing the entire season here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series, but showing up here and putting on a pretty good ride for the Taz Racing Customs truck here tonight. That is really the best battle on the racetrack right now, except for kind of the race lead, although I think right now it seems like the number 8 has somewhat stalled out. Kyle Lewis, Robert Dudley, that's another battle for position, battle for 16th as they currently run. Looks like a little bit of front end damage on that number 18 truck, but back up at the front, Himmelman got a really good run on Lorello that last time out of turn number 4, and I thought maybe, just maybe, that was going to be the moment, but looks like Lorello able to hold on at least for now.
Yeah, a really strong charge by this number 8 machine, but he just can't figure out a way to use it to get by Lorello, who is just running basically the line that this number 8 needs to run. A good exit off of 4 right here, but I just don't think it's quite enough. And Peter, as iRacing implemented the aero effects from one vehicle to another, it kind of introduced what kind of the worst part about modern day racing, which is that aero wash, which you lose all downforce on. If you've ever driven an Indy car at Iowa, you probably know what I'm talking about when you just completely lose all downforce and all grip. And I think that that's what that 8 is struggling with right now, is he doesn't have any clean air, which he's had all night, by the way, Peter, right? This number 8 machine has not been in the wake of another truck. So now he's really having to figure out what he needs to do to get by that number 9 machine. Another good run through 3 and 4, but he just can't quite maintain the momentum down the front stretch and really set up this pass. And until he can do that, he's going to continue to run in the 2nd position.
Yeah, gonna have to find a way around Lorello, that's for sure. Of course, Lorello found a way around Andrew Himmelman, and that was performing the undercut there, Drew, under that last round of green flag pit stops, which at this moment in time was, believe it or not, almost 17 laps ago. And we think that Lorello will pit with about 29 laps to go, and that is about 12 laps from right now. So the race here coming to a head pretty darn quickly, as we have been green flagged for quite some time. In fact, since the stage caution. So we've been green flagged since about lap number 49, as we're now working lap number 94. So folks, I'll let you do the math at home, but it's been a really strong run for these drivers out here tonight, especially up at the front of the field. Looking a little bit further back, Colin Ullery and Nick Bradley. Bradley, I believe, lost a couple positions in that green flag pit stop sequence as well. Talking about drivers like Ben Adams, who lost some time. The number 40 has now slid back to the 9th position. Still the biggest mover in the field, however. Meanwhile, Stan Hausman, Chris Darling, this is the battle for the 12th position. Hausman in the Beer Street Journal, one of the series sponsors here in the National Sim Racing Association, dropping to the inside. And Hausman will get himself up into that 12th position. Seeing if there's any other battles for position. There's this gaggle right here. That is Stephen Doziak Jr. Trying to race around the number 18 of Kyle Lewis. The number 16 that you see in that picture right there is Brian Bradley, who is a couple of laps down in that truck. Looks like Doziak will get underneath Kyle Lewis in turn number 1, and he will move himself up to the 18th spot. But up at the front of the field, you're not missing anything because it is still just about the same gap between Lorello and Andrew Himmel when we left him last. Here comes Nick Bradley. He's going to duck to the inside of Colin Ullery, turn number 1, and move the number 40 back up to the 8th position. So just after saying that he lost all that time, he's trying to make up for it under this green flag run. Last pitted on lap number 78 in the number 40 truck. James Arello, who was an early taker to pit road, pitted on lap number 76, 1 lap before Andrew Himmelman, that holds on to the race lead right now in his S2R Chevrolet. And Drew trying to go back-to-back here at Twin Ring Motegi.
Yeah, certainly an interesting battle right here as this number 8 machine tries to continue to set up James Lorello. And just a great battle between these two.
Yeah, that battle for the race lead is pretty hot, although last time by, Lorello able to scoot away just a little bit. You see if we can bring up that lap time history kind of between those two. You can kind of see not really losing or gaining anything on one another at this point in time, although Lorello was about a 1/10 of a second faster that time. That gap has now got itself up to 4/10 of a second. Let's go check out the chat here tonight. John Canizaro saying there would be 50 minutes worth of them, and that is we need a video to record Peter for bloopers. Yeah, a 50-minute reel. I think a good portion of that 50-minute will come from that NSRA GTR Simulators Truck Series race that we had a couple of weeks back at Monza. But yeah, there are quite a few bloopers. That's why I'm not a pro, right? I mean, come on, let's be honest. But we do appreciate each and every one of you here on 3Y TV watching us. We really do appreciate it each and every week that you guys come here and you watch these battles for the race lead. You get to see the 3-wide action here every once in a while. It's good, it's fun, and we really, really appreciate this as Lorello continuing to pull away here. Now, last time by almost 2/10 of a second faster there, Drew. I'm wondering if we're seeing what we saw under that last green flag run, where very late in the run, Lorello figures something out. We saw him close in on Andrew Himmelman, and then he did the undercut to get past Andrew Himmelman, and now, again, another 2/10 of a second. I'm thinking here that Himmelman's tires might be falling off as we have 34 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, I do. I think we're seeing kind of history repeat itself here, Peter. But these guys are only going to have one more pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see, does the 8 attempt to undercut the number 9 and kind of, turn this thing on its head as this number 4 of Nick Kessler just got by Ben Adams right here. Now Ben Adams fighting back in that number 5 machine. Can he make that inside work? It's going to be really hard to battle back on that inside lane. But he's trying to make it work in that number 5 machine and not able to kind of hold the bottom as well as he wants to. Is a really impressive run from this number 4 of Nick Kessler. Really strong effort. He's just been so quick late in these runs, really figured out this track really well, running in a top 5 position. And Peter, is this number 4's first start? I can't remember if we've seen Nick before.
I was just thinking the same thing myself, and by my notes, it is indeed his first race this season here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I think I have seen him once before. I know I've seen that Taz Racing Customs truck on the number 11 of Christopher Darling. But yeah, making his league debut here tonight and possibly could walk away with a top 5. We have things happening on the racetrack. Andrew Himmelman, Drew, I think he realized that he wasn't gaining any time on James Arello, so he's going to try doing the undercut this time. He's on pit road to his box. Now, the big question is going to be James Arello. When's he going to come down pit road? Is it going to be this time? He's slowing down the S2R number 9 on pit road right now as we speak. He is definitely adapting to what he saw with Himmelman coming down pit road one lap prior. Now the big question is going to be, can Lorello hold on to the lead even after this pit sequence here?
Yeah, it was a decent gap between these two drivers. I just think if the 8 gets out front, he has the short run pace to be able to make this work, but he might have his own battle right here between he and Mitchell Adams. Can this number 8 hold off that 49? He's going to have fresher tires, as of course Mitchell not pitted yet. My mistake right there. In fact, coming down on pit road. But Peter, I'm really interested to see, can this number 8 machine, can he gap Lorello? I am not seeing. There's Lorello coming out of pit road. I can just barely make him out. I don't think this is going to quite work out for Drew Himmelman. He'll be right on the rear bumper of this number 9, I believe. Yes, there we go. You see that blue number 8 machine in his rearview mirror. Yeah, Peter, he's not going to be able to make it work, and now he is at a tire deficit, especially compared to last run where he was at a tire advantage. I think it's going to be a real big task for this number 8 to be able to get by James Zarella.
Yeah, and now what's going to need to happen is I think Andrew Himmelman's going to need a caution. Now, that last time by, Himmelman ran the fastest lap of the race, a 37.09 lap. No one has turned a lap faster than Andrew Himmelman last time out. He is trying to do everything he can on those fresh tires to get past James Lorello. In fact, Lorello here may be showing him a little bit of the door, just leaving him an opportunity to be on the inside of the racetrack. But it seems like Lorello shuts that door through turn number 3 and 4. This is going to be a good battle between these two as Kyle Lewis pulls over to let these two on by.
It'll be interesting to see right here. Will the number 8 also use his bumper? Oh, that was definitely aero wash right there for that number 8 machine on corner entry, tucked right behind the rear of James Lorello. Just no downforce on the front end of that number 8 machine. It'll be interesting to see how much is this win worth for Drew Himmelman. It's going to be a points advantage come playoff time if he's able to snag this victory from one of his main competitors in James Lorello. A great exit out of turn 4 that last time by. He's going to be able to make the move this time going into turn 1 on James Lorello. Can he make it stick? A little bit of contact right there maybe. And I think this 8, is he going to muscle his way past Lorello? He's not going to clear him out of turn 2, is he? It's close. No, that number 9 able to stick right there. Now he's going to get a little bit of that kind of side draft that you get on that outside lane when you hang on the rear quarter panel. Man, if I was that number 8 machine, I think I would just try to bully that number 9 on corner entry and not give him that ideal line, but he doesn't need to do that. He, in fact, clears James Lorello out of turn 4.
And look at this lap traffic that they're going to have to deal with. They're closing up on Brian Bradley. Bradley going to go high in the GTR Simulators Chevy Silverado and going to allow Himmelman and Lorello to go on by him. So a little bit of roles reversed here to what we saw under that last green flag run, Drew. Because remember, under that last green flag run, Lorello had 1 lap older tires than Himmelman, and he was in front. Now Himmelman has 1 lap older tires than Lorello, and he's in front. So you see some of the slower traffic. These drivers still yet to pit. That is the number 2 machine right there of Justin White, who last pitted on lap number 83. And this has allowed Andrew Himmelman to actually get a little bit of an advantage here as he gets on past Doug Miller, now closing in on Vincent Valvano in the carsforcause.org 00 machine. Great causes. Ooh, Robert Dudley there. 48 machine getting loose on the right-hand side of the screen. He's able to corral his Toyota Tundra, keeps it pointed in the right direction. Justin White, Stephen Doziak battle for position, although Doze is on much fresher tires, so Doze will get on by that truck. Trying to see if there are any other battles for position out there right now. This is one right here. Ben Adams just coming onto the racetrack. I think he just pitted in the number 5 truck, so he has to deal with some of these trucks. Matt Cherry there just getting around Jeff Price, who was your race leader and now is on pit road. So that will cycle things through to these two. Himmelman versus Lorello up at the front of the field. Lorello dives it in deep into turn number 3. He's all over the back bumper of that number 8 Chevy Silverado as we come onto the front stretch once more. Just 24 more laps to go here at Twin Ring Motegi.
Number 8 doing everything he can do to stave off James Lorello right here. It's going to be interesting to see. Can the number 8 make this work like he hasn't been able to do all night late in these runs? That's really when that number 9 has come on. And if Lorello's able to keep this close throughout this part of the run, it doesn't bode well for that number 8, especially with how hard Drew Himmelman had to push to catch Lorello and get by him. I don't know, Peter. It's going to be a tall task to hold off James Lorello for the next 24 laps.
It is definitely going to be the case, although, like we said, we saw these roles reversed under that last green flag run, and now look at Robert Dudley. He is on fresher tires than your 2 race leaders right now, and of course he wants to get himself back on the lead lap. He's in that position right now that if the caution flag was to come out, he would receive the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. However, contact between Lorello and Himmelman. Himmelman saves it. My, oh my. That was one heck of a save out of the driver of the number 8 machine. This is one, Drew, that we're going to have to go back and get a look at here on the 3-wide TV camera.
Yeah, well, and I think Lorello just opened the door for a different type of racing that we've seen from the number 8. Yeah, I mean, you just hit him, right? Like, you just straight hit him through the center of the corner. There's no misinterpreting what happened. I mean, you can apologize, but you hit him. Like, in the middle of the corner, you weren't trying to make a move. You just flat hit his rear bumper. And so I think if the 9's going to race that way, I mean, okay, we can race that way. So I think that Lorello just made his task a little harder because he didn't make that work. Had he hit the number 8 and gotten by, that's one thing. But now the number 8's probably going to race him a little bit harder than he was racing him before, at least willing to do a little bit more than he was willing to do before. But if that number 8, Peter, was tight, he's not going to be tight anymore, as those rear tires are going to be really heated up right there, as that number 48 machine is possibly going to play into this right behind James Lorello. If that 48 decides he wants to come and battle that number 9, that's bad news for James Lorello, Peter, as that's really going to hamper his speed.
Yeah, you see the track temperature. Remember, Drew, at the top of the show, it was upwards of 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the number right at the bottom of the graphic on the right-hand side of the screen. It's now down to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, so the racetrack is tightening up here as the sun sets here in Motegi, Japan. And the racetrack will get more grip. It will tighten up as that track temperature continues to drop here. But we have 21 more laps to go. This battle for the race lead is as good of a battle as you will find in the iRacing simulator here in the Master Millwright 200 between 2 drivers very much capable, Drew, of walking away this season with the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series title.
Absolutely. The number 8 has really found pace as the season's gone on. But you see the number 48 just keeps sticking his nose underneath James Lorello. If he does that, that's going to make life really hard for Lorello. But the 48 is the first truck a lap down. I mean, this is his race too. He's battling Steven Doziak, who's that red and blue truck right behind that white and blue number 48 machine. So these guys have their own race, Peter. And quite frankly, if you're slower than me, I don't care if you're the race leader, I'm going to try to get by you. And so it'll be interesting to see if that's what happens between the 48 and the number 9. Is, man, Lorello's just right on that rear bumper. We're seeing that same dynamic come in where Lorello just can drive into turn 3 so deep compared to Himmelman. And I wonder if he just has that rear brake really, really, really low as far as a ton of rear brake, right? Not low rear brake, but low brake bias, where that rear brake is really helping that number 9 car turn so he can really enter that corner really, really deep relative to that number 8 and help that thing rotate through the center while driving in a little bit deeper. I think that's what I would see as being the difference between these 2 trucks right now, Peter. But he drives it in again and almost contact once again between the number 8 and the number 9 as the 48 and 55 are both right there to take advantage.
Yeah, and what Lorello's got to do is he's got to back up his corner, try and get a good run. Here he go. He has a run this time to the inside of Andrew Himmelman. Almost contact between the 2 as they head off into turn number 1. It looks like Lorello has the preferred inside groove through turn number 2. Can Himmelman come back at him? Doesn't look like it. Looks like James Lorello going to clear the number 8 machine hard into the outside wall. Andrew Himmelman and the Sim Shots number 8 machine right side is absolutely pancaked. That is a significant amount of damage here with 18 laps to go.
Yeah, going to be damage control mode for that number 8 and still try to finish on this podium. He's got a big gap between himself and the 4th place number 62 machine, but I think that number 8 just held that outside a little too long, a little too much wash from that number 9 machine to make that work, and big contact. Quite frankly, did a good job to hold it. I think what that number 8 was trying to do was maintain how close he was to that number 9 going into 3, and I probably would expect a little bit of contact between those two if that would have happened, but he needed to get off that throttle a little bit through the center to make that exit work, but he just wanted to try to stay there as much as he could, and not able to make that happen. But Peter, a guy who we need to keep our eye on is that white truck. Got by Drew Himmelman, that number 49 machine, closing in on James Lorello about 2/10 quicker that last time by, and once again, Mitchell Adams, a quiet race throughout the race, and now 3/10 quicker that last time by was James Lorello, and he finds himself at his best track position all night at the end of this race, like he tends to do at so many of these Simbox Truck Series races.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. So Mitchell Adams, I should say, 1.4 seconds behind James Lorello. We can see how this gap has been closing in. Last 5 laps, it's gone from about 2.2 seconds down to 1.5. With 16 laps to go, that would just about put Mitchell Adams on the back doorstep of the number 9 of Lorello at the drop of the checkered flag. Of course, caution flags could change everything. The big question now is going to be the damage mode for Andrew Himmelman, as Ben Adams is quite a ways back, about 7.5 seconds, but Himmelman is losing quite a bit of time in that Sim Shots truck. In fact, he's already lost 4 seconds on James Lorello. We will see what the lap time is like this time to the truck behind, and you can see right there that, caution flag has come out. That is going to change everything, as we're hearing that the number 11 of Christopher Darling has had an accident in the Be Kind MaxGrafix number 11 Ford F-150. Oh, gets up into the wall, just like what happened to the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman. Could not save it, goes back up the racetrack. Caution flag is out. You see, looks like Darling tried to get off the racetrack as soon as he could, but Drew, that's going to bring out the yellow.
It certainly will, which is great for the number 8 machine as far as getting new tires on that thing, but it's going to really be interesting to see how this affects this race. The number 9 really wasn't super quick on fresh tires. Everyone's going to come down pit road, and so this really kind of just resets this race for the victory right here between James Lorello, that number 49, and that number 8. And I got to say, I don't know how much damage that 8 has. It's probably going to be quite a bit, but if he's able to get most of that repaired and maintain his track position, Drew Himmelman's the quickest driver for a short run, and we're only going to have probably around 10, 11 laps here once this thing gets restarted. I really like that number 8's chances if he can get that damage repaired and not lose too much track position.
Well, how about a shootout here at Twin Ring Motegi? All the trucks on pit road. Himmelman, Drew, you have to think he's got to stay in the pit box to get that damage repaired. That damage looked pretty darn significant, and I think he might lose quite a bit of track position in getting that damage repaired. We will see. Here comes James Lorello. The number 9 machine will win the race off pit road. The 49 of Mitchell Adams. You see Andrew Himmelman. He is staying in his box to get that damage repaired. A couple of the other drivers coming off pit road. Jeff Price. How about the run here tonight for the number 14 Back Channel Productions machine? Doug Neal in the 77 quietly now up into the 4th position. Colin Ullery, Ben Adams, Nick Bradley. Not sure if Nick Bradley had a bad pit stop or what, but Bradley was up into 5th for a while. We're hearing that Ben Adams might have had problems on pit road in the number 5 truck. He lost a couple of positions, now back to the 6th spot, about 2 seconds slower on pit road than some of the other trucks around him. But it's going to be a fun finish, that's for sure, as Lorello tries to go back-to-back here at Twin Ring Motegi. He's trying to tame Motegi here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But, folks, big shout-out to our series sponsors here tonight, as we got, of course, tonight's race sponsor, Master Millwright, millwrightmachine@gmail.com. If you need any industrial machining, well, they are the people to check out. Of course, Stay Tuned Sports, there's a link to their tune-in page for the Stay Tuned Sports podcast, if that is your thing. Buttkicker, of course, sponsoring the Buttkicker Challenge, which no one decided to partake in tonight. Andrew Himmelman had the opportunity, but he declined. Make sure you check out www.thebuttkicker.com if you want to take your sim rig experience to the next level. Craig Setup Shop sponsoring the Craig Setup Shop Pole Award. Of course, that did go to Andrew Himmelman. CraigSetupShop.co.uk provides the best iRacing setups out there that your money can buy. Make sure you check them out. MaxGrafix, www.maxgrafix.co. That is MaxGrafix.co, not .com, .co, for all of your paint needs. Brookstone Animal Hospital, www.brookstonevet.com. If you're in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, make sure you check them out. Taz Racing Customs, facebook.com/Taz Racing Customs, all one word. If you need a custom diecast, sim shots, check them out on Facebook. There's a link in the description to them. Beer Street Journal, for sponsoring our Beer Street Journal Last Call, https www.beerstreetjournal.com, all one word. And what do you think the chances are of having a Beer Street Journal Last Call here tonight, Drew? I think the chance just went up because cautions breed cautions, as Darrell Waltrip liked to say.
Yeah, we haven't seen very many tonight here, Peter, right? Only 4 incidents, 3 overall with the stage break. But I certainly think that we have a very good chance of increasing that by several here tonight. It'll be interesting to see if that pans out, as the field will be really close together. And this is when these drivers have really, really raced hard and in close proximity, has been on these restarts. And, I think everybody sees this as an opportunity right now. Everyone's on fresh tires. They've kind of reset that gap to Lorello. That number 9 and the number 49, quite frankly, aren't super quick on these short runs relative to their competitors. So I think these guys are going to view this as an opportunity. When you have drivers in that mindset, you have the possibility that they are going to make some fairly irrational moves. We will see if that's the case, as James Dorello has chosen the high lane here on this restart, which will benefit that number 77 truck of Doug Neal, starting right behind him in that Simbox machine, with the number 5 in the third, and the third in line, as that number 9 machine. A great restart does James Dorello have this time, as the 49 machine is going to be able to just clear Doug Neal. He will through 1 and 2. The number 14 of Jeff Price has been really quick all race long. Can he make this short run work right here as he clears Doug Neal through 1 and 2?
Yeah, now we're going to find out which of these drivers have that short run pace, that is for sure, and the level of aggression to try and get up to the front. Jeff Price up to 3rd, Doug Neal in 4th. Ben Adams, we know he's had an immense long run pace here tonight. He is in 5th. And whoa, look at Matt Cherry side by side with Colin Ullery back there. And even further back, look at Andrew Himmelman trying to charge his way back up to the front. He is in the 10th spot right now, battling with JT Poole and Adam Dama. Dama in the number, that is Adam Dama in the number 82. Finds himself 1 lap down. Now, I'm not exactly sure, folks, I do apologize, who the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award was under that last caution. I believe it was Doug Milliner, but I'm not 100% sure about that, as we come to just 8 laps to go here around Twin Ring Motegi. Jeff Price, Doug Neal, the battle for 3rd here. Been a solid run out of both of these drivers. Hit their marks, Drew, on pit road, able to use their long run pace to their advantage, now finding themselves up here inside the top 5. As that last time by, race leader James Dorello at 37.061, fastest lap of the entire race so far. Of course, the racetrack is cooling down, which will help with the lap times, but definitely to run the fastest lap of the race under so much pressure here, and as we come to 7 laps to go, is mighty impressive.
It certainly is, but clean air really helps in that too, right? All these guys behind him having to deal with the wake that number 9 is creating, that aero wash, which is a big challenge for these guys, especially with these fresh tires. But Peter, quite frankly, a little bit more cordial restart than I was expecting here. With 10 to go, typically guys get a little antsy, a little crazy, but fairly friendly exchange between these drivers. Though this race certainly is not over, but Mitchell Adams certainly keeping that number 9 honest, especially on corner exit. That's where that number 49 machine has been making up his ground, as now we look at the number 8 of Drew Himmelman trying to recover from that big impact to the turn 2 outside while trying to race Lorello for that race lead right before the caution. And man, Drew Himmelman wishes that caution came out just about a couple laps earlier, Peter, because this race would be completely different for him.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. A lot of right side damage on that number 8 machine. You see him losing ground to Nick Kessler in the number 4, who was up inside the top 5 for just a brief period of time earlier, probably only about 20 laps ago or so. Meanwhile, battle for position, Nick Bradley, Matt Cherry. This is the battle for the 7th spot. Cherry has it right now. Bradley wants it back. We've seen Bradley kind of bounce anywhere from about the 5th to 9th spot over the last 50 laps or so in the race. Been definitely a strong showing for the Rocket City Woodworks Chevrolet, and almost contact between those two coming out of turn number 2. But they keep it clean, but just 4 laps to go, and the battle for the race lead is actually heating up just a little bit as Cherry will slide on by and take that position. But up at the front of the field, looking out back right now of the number 9 machine of James Dorello at the front nose of Mitchell Adams. Adams is not letting him scoot away at all, Drew.
But 14 of Jeff Price right there to take advantage. If these two cost themselves a little bit of pace, then he'll be right there as the number 5 and 77 battling side by side at a turn 2. Doug Neal and Ben Adams for 4th position as Colin Ullery's right there as well. These guys are battling to get right there as the 5 just clears Doug through the entry of turn 3 and really took the air right off the nose of that number 77 machine. But here comes the number 14 of Jeff Price. This is the run this 14 needed as far as his chase chances were concerned. And he is going to be looking to take the 2nd position away from Mitchell Adams, who has just lost a little bit of ground here that last time by to James Dorello. Went from under 2/10 to 3.5 behind our race leader, as maybe a little bit of a new look for that number 14 machine, and certainly one of the best runs that he has had all season long.
Yeah, of course, like you said, thinking about points, he was 18 points out of the playoff picture entering into the top of the show. Meanwhile, Mitchell Adams did close in there on Mitchell Adams just a little bit as we have 2 laps to go. If a caution flag comes out this lap, we will have a Beer Street Journal last call. But no caution flag comes out, we will go all the way to the checkered flag here. Lorello holding a 0.3 of a second lead over Adams, and now looks like Jeff Price falling off just a little bit in that number 14 machine. Coming around turn number 3 and 4, white flag will be in the air this time for your race leader, driver of the number 9 machine, James Dorello, trying to go back-to-back, just 1.5 miles away from doing so here as you see the field flash on by as they take the white flag.
And this is Dorello's biggest lead since the restart occurred, about a half a second between Mitchell Adams and James Dorello. He's feeling comfortable as long as he doesn't screw up turn 3. I think Dorello's put himself in a really good position to grab the victory here at Twin Ring Motegi. Lorello makes his way through 3 and 4. No dramas for this number 9 machine. He will win the Master Millwright 200 at Twin Ring Motegi.
Yeah, what a run here tonight for James Dorello. Just, you have to go back to the moments where on the longer runs that he was able to catch up to Andrew Himmelman. That undercut that he did to get to the race lead, just absolutely so impressive for James Dorello to go back-to-back here. I mean, that number 9 truck hasn't been in victory lane but once this season, make that now twice. It has not been the best of seasons for James Dorello, all things considered, but last time he was in victory lane was race number 3 of the season back at Martinsville. And finally getting another win here tonight on 3 Wide TV. Gonna burn it down here on the front stretch for all of the viewers at home. Can't say he didn't earn it here tonight, Drew. That is definitely for sure.
I mean, certainly as the race got further on, the quicker that number 9 machine became. And there certainly wasn't a truck that was able to put together the pace late that this truck was able to do. An exceptional run for Lorello, as you mentioned. He has twin ring Motegi figured out, which is a great thing for him, and building momentum at the right time of the season. It doesn't matter if you maybe didn't have the pace that you wanted earlier in the season. This is championship time here, Peter, as we get closer and closer to the chase, and this is when you want your form to pick up, and that's exactly what we've seen from James Lorello.
Yeah, that is definitely the case as he continues to burn it down here on the front stretch. For all of the viewers at home, see right there, not sure why the audio thing just came up, but good old Windows telling me that I had audio turned all the way up. Thank you very much for that. Let's see if we can dial up some post-race interviews. Speaking of the audio turned all the way up, let's see if we can bring in tonight's third place finisher driver, the number 14 machine, Jeff Price. I believe that Drew Eisenman has caught up with him.
Jeff Price, Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. What's happening?
Well, Jeff, a great run for you tonight. I mean, a clutch run for you tonight. A little bit behind in points coming into tonight. What was your mindset coming in to a track that's as challenging as Twin Ring Motegi, given your kind of precarious situation in points?
Yeah, I went into this one just thinking, I got to stay up front, just be there, do the best I can. Just honestly, I came to this race not even trying to points race. I was trying to redeem myself from last season because I felt like I had a chance to win last season, and I self-spun and messed my race up. But like once I figured out I actually had speed for once, it was lights out. I feel like I was able to pull away from people. Like I was good for about 30 laps into a run, and like the last few laps, I fell on my face. I know I gained some points on them, and I'm really looking forward to next week to see what I can do to hopefully get into this.
I mean, I think you've all but erased your gap to that number 28 machine who finished in 11th position, especially given where you ran at the end of the stage break. But is that something that you're particularly worried about? Is that something that you're keeping in mind throughout the race? Or what's your mindset as far as approaching the race is concerned with that points deficit and the drivers that you're racing around?
Yeah, I really wasn't thinking that I was going to go into this, and my goal was just to be here at the end to have a shot. I had a shot and got tight. But once I realized that about lap 20, I looked down and they're dropping back. The two drivers I feel like I'm racing, Matt Cherry and Jamar. I'm like, I may need to change my mindset here. And I just kind of calculated. I'm like, all right, I got to go. So I saved tires for up to like lap 25, and then I just went past a few cars to get as big as a gap. And I think both of them didn't get stage points. And now I'm thinking that earlier in the season, trying all my different strategies, and maybe I should have worked a little harder at getting the stages, because I'm really looking forward to this. This is the most fun I've had in the last few weeks, trying to close this gap, because like in the first 5 weeks I was like 30th, back marker 30th in points, and then in the last 5 weeks I've just really put it on them, just points race, and I've closed the gap. And yeah, I looked at it and I thought I might be able to do this, so hopefully I can.
And you mentioned your form picking up through the last few weeks, especially tonight. What is it tonight and these last few weeks that have seen your performance increase fairly dramatically as we've seen?
Well, earlier in the season, I just had awful luck. You know, I had never had an actual team in this league. I've had guys join with me and then they leave. And I felt my performance dropping badly. And, you know, I was really down on myself. And I started making that gap back, hit Talladega, and I had no help. I felt like I could have won the race, got hung out to dry, and I was at all-time low there. I don't even know if I can do this anymore. And then that night, Ben Adams and Simshots Racing said, "Hey, you're welcome to run with us." And I said, "Run it by all the other team members. I'm not going to come in if people don't want me here." And he did, and they accepted me with open arms. And ever since then, just a little bit of information they give me week to week has helped me. Tonight, they were just talking amongst each other, trying to figure out ways to get faster. And I took it in, I put it out there, and it's so nice to have teammates that are actually here to help me. And it's really humbling to know that people actually will help. So I'm really thankful for Mitchell, Ben, I'm losing my mind. Brain fart. Andrew Himmelman and Colin. Like, there's several people in this team. Sorry, but I really can't express how grateful I am to really feel like I'm up front again, and it's a lot of fun.
I mean, you showed exceptional pace tonight. Quite frankly, a lot of the Simshots trucks had a ton of pace tonight. Congratulations on your podium. Let's hear those shout-outs.
Man, first and foremost, the team for supporting me, helping me out with this. Second of all, Back Channel Productions, all the league sponsors that helped put this on. Y'all for broadcasting. My beautiful wife, who supports me in all this, and my Back Channel Productions. I don't know if we're going to have them back again for next season, but I do know that I'm going to go out here, do the best I can for him, and try and get him some exposure for YouTube and stuff. So hopefully we can do that. And I appreciate you guys.
Well, thanks for talking with us, Jeff. And once again, congratulations on your third place.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our third place interview. Let's see if we can dial up driver of the number 49 machine, Mitchell Adams. Mitchell, Peter Short in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mitchell, here tonight, coming up just a little bit short of the other drivers around you. But, all things considered, the number 49, you're very consistent all night long. And once again, you're sneaking your way onto the podium. Tell us about your race.
It was a really good race again for the 49 truck. This is just a great track, and it's a great track for me. Just really kind of was getting beat on the short run by those guys, and I really felt I had the best long run truck kind of among those guys battling for the lead at the end, but just wasn't anything to do about it. It's a really fun race though. Got some good stage points, ran my teammates. They all did good tonight too. So overall it was a great run here.
Yeah, definitely was a great run for you and your number 49 truck. And, of course, you had a pretty good run here last season at Twin Ring Motegi as well. What's your thoughts? Well, actually, no, I don't think you were in that race last season at Twin Ring Motegi. I think that's what you told me last night, getting things crossed up. But what's your thoughts of this racetrack?
I know I ran last season. I do know that because that's the only other time I've run here. But this has got to be one of my favorite racetracks, especially it's 1.5 miles, but it's so different than anything we run. It's just a ton of fun, and I love having it on our schedule here.
Yeah, well, definitely is, like you said, very different than what we've had otherwise on the schedule so far this season. Next week, of course, we go to Charlotte Motor Speedway, the final race before the playoffs begin. Of course, you are locked into the playoffs, and you are the reigning series champion. What are your thoughts of going to Charlotte next week?
Charlotte's been a great track for me. I was bragging. I don't think I've lost a race in the NSRA there on the Roval and the Oval, so I'm looking forward to it, even if we can't get the win, which I'm hoping we can. It's a good race for me, hoping to carry some good momentum into the playoffs and keep the regular season championship locked up.
All right. Well, Mitchell, before we let you go here on 3Y TV, any shout-outs that you'd like to give out?
Yeah, just the NSRA for putting the league on. You guys for the broadcast. I'm definitely going to go back and watch it. Just everyone that sponsors the 49, MaxGrafix on the hood again this week. We also got Buttkicker and GTR simulators where you can use code GTR to get 10% off your order. Just Simshots Racing, they helped me out a ton. It was a great team effort tonight. And just everyone that roots on the 49, Mom, Dad, Nana, Papa, Nicole, everyone else.
Absolutely. Well, Mitchell, congratulations on your runner-up finish here tonight at Twin Ring Motegi, and we'll see you next week. And, of course, in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series playoffs here in a couple of weeks as well. Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight's second-place finisher driver of the number 49 machine, Mitchell Adams. And I believe that Drew Eisenman has caught up with the driver who has gone back-to-back here at Twin Ring Motegi, driver of the number 9, James Lorello.
James Lorello, winner for his second win this season. You got a copy.
Catch you guys.
All right, man. Well, maybe not the quickest truck earlier on, but you certainly figured it out late. Give us a rundown of how that race went from your perspective.
Yeah, it's such a fun track. That first run, I just burnt up the tires. I was overdriving it a bit, and so I figured that out for the second and third run there. Tried to just get ahead of Andrew and be able to save enough at the end to be able to compete with him. So that was what it was about. It really, after about 10 laps, you really needed to have saved a little bit on your tires. Otherwise, you would go push into the wall.
And late in that race, some close racing between yourself and that number 8 machine. A little bit of contact right late before that number 8 unfortunately made some contact with the outside wall coming out of turn 2. What happened with that whole little deal?
Yeah, I just got in there too hot when he braked into the middle of the corner, and there was a lap car behind me, so I was just pushing too much. Really wasn't trying to give him a bump. I would have saved that for the last 10 laps if that's what I was trying to do. So glad he was able to save it. But when I made that last move there, I know he got into the wall pretty good. I think he just got tight behind me.
We're really seeing your momentum pick up as we get closer and closer to the chase. You're kind of peaking at the right time. Maybe not struggled necessarily, but certainly didn't have the pace that I think we were expecting earlier in this season. What's changed?
Yeah, I think that these guys have just picked up their talent and got a lot of practice in between Andrew. He's really come on, really awesome to see that. Mitchell, as usual. Ben, my teammate, has been great, and everybody else has really picked up the pace a bit. I missed a few races too, and so finally getting back into a groove. It's funny that if you don't really practice and put a lot of time in, then you lose a little bit. And it's really awesome to see the competition, and I hope it continues. But I'm glad I've got some momentum, and this was a fun track for me, so I was glad that this one was on schedule.
And just one more race until the chase starts. That is Charlotte next week. What are your thoughts going into that 1.5-mile track?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one. I think the draft might play a little bit of a role with these trucks. It takes a little while to kind of pull away. Not as much tire saving, I don't think. But I'm hopeful that I can come out on top of the point standings because I think we get a little bonus headed in the playoffs. So that would be great. But hopefully we can finish off strong.
Absolutely. Congratulations on your second win of the season. Back-to-back here at Twin Ring Motegi as well. Before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout-out to?
Yeah, thanks to you guys up in the booth and everybody who puts on this series. My sponsor, Stay Tuned Podcast, sports podcast. He's been great. I'm glad to get him a win after I was missing a couple weeks. I know he probably expected a few more out of his sponsorship, so glad I can get him tonight. And maybe in a couple weeks I can go win the Buttkicker Challenge. I was disappointed in a couple weeks, but I'll try it maybe in the playoffs. We'll see how it works out if I can get a pole. But thanks to you guys.
Look forward. We're hoping you get a poll so we can see that Buttkicker Challenge hopefully be completed for the first time this season. Once again, congratulations on your victory, and thank you for talking with us.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you all next week.
All right, well, folks, that's going to do it for our race winner interview. James Lorello, driver of the number 9 machine here tonight, getting it done at Twin Ring Motegi, a very tricky 1.5-mile race course. It's about time for us to give out kind of our post-race rundown here on 3YTV. Let's see if we can do so, if it allows us to. I think it will right here. Folks, don't mind the kind of all of a sudden the thing that's going to be all over the top of your screen. I wish we need to work on it. Anyway, There we go. The Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. It just says Stay Tuned Sports because I had to cut it short. So it wasn't all over your screen. James Sorrello going to take home the win. Mitchell Adams going to come home in second. Jeff Price third. Ben Adams in fourth. A spirited run by Ben Adams, that is for sure. And I'm still wondering what all the people are doing in the road course back behind the graphic. I don't think you can really see the oval from that point of view, but there are a bunch of people there anyway. Good job by racing. Fifth spot, Doug Neal. Good run for him here tonight in the Simbox machine. Had Nathan Maurer rooting him on from behind his sim rig, as Nathan has driven many miles to be with Doug Neal for the Atlanta race this weekend. Colin Ullery, Matt Cherry, 6th and 7th. Nick Kessler in his league debut finishing in 8th. Nick Bradley, who is, by my calculations, the Taz Racing Customs biggest mover of the race award winner, going to come home in 9th. Make sure you check them out for any of your custom diecast needs. There is a link to the Facebook page in the description of the video. And finishing in 10th and rounding out your top 10 is JT Poole, Drew.
Jamar Dumas, our cutoff driver for the playoffs coming into tonight. A decent run for that number 28 machine, finishing 11th position. Andrew Himmelman racing for that victory all night long until contact with the turn 2 wall there late. He's able to recover fairly well for 12th position. Robert Dudley in 13th position. Adam Dama, a solid run from that number 82 machine tonight, finishing 14th. Stan Houseman in the number 39 and 15th. Kyle Lewis, and not the number 19 truck, in fact, in the number 18 truck, finishes 16th. Vinny Valvano in 17th. Steven Doziak Jr. He finishes in 18th position. Then Justin White and Doug Milner round out our top 20.
Yeah, and finishing in the 21st position here tonight is driver of the number 16, Brian Bradley. Jordan Shepler, 22nd. Chris Darling, 23rd. Ben Mashburn, who pulled off the racetrack for unknown reasons, finishing 24th. It is his birthday. Maybe someone said, hey, we have birthday cake. Maybe someone got him a new present for his birthday. I don't know, but the birthday boy only turned about 20 or so laps. And then Ben Izenga, who was involved in an accident on lap number 10 or so, calling it quits in the opening 10 laps of the event here tonight. But that's going to just about do it for all of us here on 3Y TV. Definitely a lot of fun here. Of course, we do want to just bring up the graphic here to say the Taz Racing Customs biggest mover of the race. We already called him out. Nick Bradley finishing in 9th here tonight, picking up 15 positions. Make sure you check them out, as I said, for all your custom diecast needs. But Drew, any final thoughts here? We only have one more race before the playoffs here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series.
I mean, from my perspective, this race certainly lived up to my expectations. A ton of great racing, especially between the number 8 and 9 machines throughout the vast majority of the race, it feels like. Then watching Mitchell Adams try to run him down, that late race restart with the unknowns. I had a great time tonight, and I hope the viewers did watching as well.
Absolutely. But for myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisenman, we will be back with you next week, same time, same place, 9 o'clock Eastern here on 3Y TV for that race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But that's a wrap on the Master Millwright 200, folks. Stay safe, and we shall see ya!